Hi, everyone. I am waiting for Michael Tracy to join. And I just got some very good news by email. And that's why I just lit up because I looked at my email and something very, very good is happening to me. Good things happen when you work hard and you're a good person. The universe rewards you. Arguable, arguable on the last point. But I do work hard. I do some good work, and yes, I am being rewarded by the universe. Michael, I just had something good happen to me now, which I don't know if I want to talk about yet, but something very good happened.
What is it? Is it a secret?
It's sort of a secret. It's an announcement of something I'm going to be doing. But I don't I like. Do I want to announce it now? It's too spontaneous. I just got the email. Let me ruminate on how exactly I want to announce it to the world. But
Okay.
you're gonna
You
be
want to
seeing
give
more
a
of me. You're gonna be seeing more of me, Michael, doing good things.
Do you want to give a hint?
Um, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's something professional related. It's not like a personal thing. Like an uncle gave me died and gave me $100 million or something like that. It's professional. It's related to writing, and it's a good thing that's going to happen in the future.
Okay. Does the Atlantic want you to be your alt right correspondent?
Well, you know what? I'm getting a lot of contacts from mainstream media these days. I mean, they all want to kind of talk to me about conservatism and what's happening. I think they see me as someone who has some insights. No, it's not the Atlantic. They're not gonna. They haven't hired me. Did you see Jesse Signal is now publishing at the Dispatch?
Um, I think I saw that being teased. I didn't know that the end result was he was going to be writing at the Dispatch.
Yeah, that's just announced. He wrote an
The
article. And
Dispatch might be a bit of a bridge too far for me. I have to say.
what is a bridge too far?
The Dispatch.
As far as what?
Well, I mean, isn't it one of these never Trump outlets with full of supposedly disaffected conservatives who have now just adopted every conventional liberal democratic
No,
position?
no, no. You're confusing them with Bulwark. So Bulwark is basically that. Although they still have Kathy Young, who I
What's
think
the
is like
difference
a
between the Bulwark and the Dispatch? They
the
seem like the
Dispatch is
same
still
thing.
conservative. They still believe in like small government. They're never Trump, but they take conservative positions on like substantive issues, and they're neocons and all that. They're not going to go and talk about critical race theory has a point or something like that. They're still conservatives. And the Bulwark, I mean, they're just like they seem to just have soured on the whole conservative movement.
Right. Like Tim Miller is the Bulwark guy
Yeah.
who
Although
was a former
even
who
Tim, I've talked to Tim. I think he's still he's a conservative. He's like a moderate 1990s conservative. But yeah,
I guess so.
they're similar in
But
that
the,
like
but there are views that he espouses now that I cannot imagine him espousing when he was working for Jeb Bush in like 2016. So I think it's more of a wholesale ideological sort of upheaval that has a lot to do with, I don't want to say audience capture, that's a bit of a cynical spin on it, but absorption of the influence of the audience that accumulates when you have such a singularly anti-Trump publication. Obviously, that's going to be comprised after 10 years largely of people who are probably liberal in some fashion.
not necessarily. You could hate Trump and think Trump is awful, and it doesn't require you to repudiate a single position of Ronald Reagan, right? I mean, psychologically, yes, like people will, like human nature will lead you in that direction, um, but it's not a logical necessity.
Well, Ronald Reagan was not in favor of voting for Democrats. So you're repudiating that aspect of
True.
Reagan adulation. You're basically just joining a Democratic outfit, right? That's what the Bulwark and the Dispatch are. Maybe the Bulwark more expressly than the Dispatch. I have to learn maybe the intricacies of them. But I guess like where the bridge too far for me would be to go to would be an outlet that still genuinely does have like neoconservative, if we want to use that terminology. I think it's a bit outmoded, but for the sake of argument, neoconservative ideological tendencies, like that's sort of what I developed a whole political consciousness in repudiation of. And I'm willing to evolve on certain things, but that core premise still burns pretty bright for me.
What is the core premise again?
Repudiation of like Bush era neoconservatism.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't like them. That's just you. That's just you. That's your personal, whether you like them or
Yeah, I'm
not. That's not.
speaking personally. Maybe
Uh,
Jesse Single doesn't feel the same way, which I wouldn't
yeah, yeah. Single. I always get it wrong. It's single. It's not signal. Jesse Single. Even though I've known him for a long time.
single. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known I've known him and read him all the time. I just always confuse it. Yeah, but anyways, it's interesting.
Did he give like an explanation for why he's joining, or
No,
I have?
why does he need an explanation for? He's just a place he wants to write
Well, I don't know.
articles.
I thought like maybe he made an announcement and just like
Become a neocon
wrote a
or
few
something.
sentences like describing why he joined.
No, he might have. I actually didn't read it, but I just saw on Twitter. I don't know why we started talking about this. It's just something good happened to me. You said I was going to write for the Atlantic, and I told you I just saw this. But anyways, that's not what people are here for. They're here for the big the developments, I guess, in Russia and Ukraine and Israel. What do you make of this?
By the way, I'm getting over this. Today's my first day where I feel like I'm competent enough to do work since I've had the flu. So hopefully I can maintain my stamina throughout this next hour, but we'll see.
How long have you had flu for?
The symptoms came on out of nowhere on Friday, and then the worst of it was like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yesterday was like a bit of a recovery day, and today I feel like I'm almost entirely out of it, but I still have some lingering symptoms. Like for 2 days, I literally could barely speak. Like I couldn't be able to talk to you right now because you could
Wow.
barely comprehend me. Because
Yeah, I
throat
was
thing
a
was bad.
Yeah, I was a little sick. I've been just a little sick over the last week. It seems like it's happening to everyone, but yeah, thankfully it wasn't that bad. It's very interesting because I have a family now. I have a wife and two kids, and we'll observe as like one will get sick, the other will get sick, and it'll be like, oh, you have this symptom while I have that symptom. You got really hit hard by this one while I didn't get hard. So it's kind of fun to compare like, whose immune system reacts like the most to which disease and like in which order, right? It's like we always get what everyone else gets, but it's like kind of a fun thing to compare.
Yeah, and I don't even know where I could have possibly gotten it because my understanding is that you contract the virus like 1 or 2 days before the symptoms emerge.
Mhm.
And I was hardly even like out 1 or 2 days before the symptoms emerge.
But it could
So
be anywhere, right? It could be a grocery store, it could be anything, right?
I know, but I don't even think I was at the grocery. I'm trying to think. Like I'm trying to remember now. Like I wasn't out in public for any extended period of time.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's a little bit mysterious.
Hmm. Okay. Well, anyways, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about this.
And yeah, like you often hear about everybody has this particular virus at a particular time, and I kind of just wave it off or think it doesn't apply to me. But this time it really applied to me. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad.
So I really like this op-ed the other day. It touches on some points from the New York Times that we've been talking about. So the guy's name is I think Mikhail Zygar. He's a Russian journalist. Someone tells me that he had you might not take him seriously as far as somebody who has contacts within the Putin regime today. He may or may not. But anyways, did
Yeah,
you
I
read
read
the
it. I mean,
op-ed?
he claims to have contacts.
Right.
I don't know how legitimate those contacts are. He's not very specific about who he's allegedly talking to.
Yeah, and what he says about the context is they
Because,
tell
like,
him
imagine
that.
somebody saying that in the U.S. context. Oh, I have contacts. Let me get at you the wording. I've been talking to Kremlin insiders who have known Putin for years, and they all agreed such and such. So, like, if I said I've been talking to Washington insiders
Well, it's Kremlin.
who have known
You would
Mr.
say White
Trump for
House, right?
years,
This
and
is
they
not
all agreed on
Moscow.
something, like you wouldn't take that at face value necessarily.
No, but the Kremlin and Washington are not equivalent. Moscow and Washington, you would say White House, right? So that they do that all the time in
Okay, I've been talking to
reporting.
well, but
Kremlin.
I mean, I feel like Kremlin can mean something a bit more expansive or akin to Washington insiders, depending on how it's used.
Anyways, yeah. So what he says about the insiders, yeah. What does he say exactly? Uh, he says He hasn't given up, but Putin sees things differently. Let me see here. I have to control F. They all agreed. Mr. Putin has come to love war and could no longer imagine a future without it. Okay, so like I would ask him if he was here, like, does Putin go around saying, "I love war" and can't imagine? Like, how exactly
Yeah,
would
I
you come
mean,
to that conclusion?
I can't imagine Putin saying, "I just love war for its own sake, so I'm going to
Can't
continue
imagine life.
waging it." Like, I don't know if that's like an accurate characterization of what Putin is up to. I mean, I think the more compelling aspect of this argument is that obviously the military Keynesianism, is that how you pronounce it? Keynes, Keynes,
Keynesian, yeah,
um,
Keynesianism, yeah,
Keynesianism, yeah, has revitalized sectors of the Russian economy that had been stagnant or dormant for many years, and it's well established that war is one of the best economic stimulus that a government can introduce to a flagging or kind of stagnant economy. I mean, just look at World War II in the United States. So obviously, that is an incentive to kind of keep the war going. If we're thinking about what reason would Putin have to agree to just a sudden cessation in hostilities in Ukraine, which is what the Trump administration plus Ukraine are nominally proposing that Putin agree to, which he has not yet. Now, they kind of couch it as Putin is open, we're having productive conversations with them, we're going to be working towards some shared objective or something. But ultimately, the substance of what has come about from this resumption in contacts is that Putin has not agreed to the immediate 30-day interim ceasefire that the US and Ukraine jointly proposed last week. So that seems like a rejection, except that for diplomatic kind of protocol reasons, they're not framing it as such. And one of the reasons why he probably wouldn't be incentivized to accept it is because of this aspect of economic stimulation that the war is clearly bringing. And then the author goes through other aspects that I think are compelling. Yeah, it does seem right that with Russia now having so many veterans that are probably going to be the most, I guess it depends. Like, I don't want to overly generalize too much, but you could imagine that there is a section of war veterans who have the most hardline bellicose views around the war's ultimate objectives, right? They're now a big political constituency within Russia.
yeah.
And has to be mindful of what they advocate.
Yeah. So yeah, the military Keynesianism. I don't know if it's about actually economic growth. I don't know if it's good for that. Maybe it is. I don't know. But like control over the economy, and I think is a larger point. It's more government centralization, right? So he makes this argument, right? So he has this thing about Kremlin insiders, which we may believe or not believe. But then he has these other arguments that you or I could see, and like that just kind of makes sense, right? So this idea that Putin asserts control, like it's war is great for kind of stamping out dissent. He talks about these veterans who Putin makes a good point, like they don't really have strong high positions in government, from the veterans of the Ukraine war at least. And he brings up the Prigozhin, mutiny, which was, shows what happens when these guys, they can rely on kind of legitimacy for wanting to be more hardcore than Putin is.
Yeah, and
And
that was a perfect example of, I remember, if you recall when that Prigozhin mutiny or insurrection or rebellion was happening, I think Putin actually did call it a rebellion, if memory serves.
hmm,
The pro-Russia accounts were trying to minimize the significance of it, but that's a perfect example of the dynamic that Putin has to kind of politically be mindful of, which is that you have people who are invested in the war effort and who have these accumulating grievances against how the war has been conducted, threatening Putin's rule from that angle.
yeah.
And actually, Lukashenko did an interview recently with Mario Knopfel,
Hmm.
who's the Twitter
Yeah, yeah,
ex.
I know this guy. He's a guy who's like one of these people with like no national, like ambiguous nationality and like politics who like it was rose to prominence in the Elon Musk era.
Yeah, something like that. And Lukashenko actually was asked about the Prigozhin episode, and he gave details that I don't think have ever been given. So
Mhm.
I do credit Mario for asking a good question.
Mm.
Um, and Lukashenko said that he was thanked because remember Lukashenko intervened in the Prigozhin episode as a mediator
Mm.
between Prigozhin and Putin,
Mm.
and nominally offered Prigozhin asylum of sorts within Belarus. And we were told that Prigozhin was in Belarus for like a month and a half or something, but nobody really knew where he was. And then 2 months later, he ends up blown out of the sky over Russia. But Prigozhin said that he was thanked by Western intelligence services, namely the CIA and MI6, for his intervention because the Western intelligence services were genuinely afraid that Putin could be toppled and Prigozhin might seize control of the Russian nuclear arsenal, or
Mm.
the Russian nuclear arsenal will become unsecured.
Okay, so
Now, who knows whether Lukashenko is telling the truth about that, but it just tells you something about the severity of that episode and what Putin is must now be cognizant of going forward in terms of how he conducts the war and how placated those elements of his constituency are within Russia. Meaning
is
the
this a believable story? So the CIA watches what happens. It calls Lukashenko. We just want to say thanks, man. Like, like, we just want to say thanks. Like they're not getting anything out of it. They just want to praise him and tell him he did a good
well,
job.
I
Like,
know he might have caught wind that the intelligence services were relieved
maybe,
that
yeah.
he put a stop to the insurrection that could have resulted in the
They
nuclear
could.
arsenal
It's
becoming
possible. Yeah,
insecure.
it's
Now, there
possible.
was an alternative explanation, I thought at the time, that elements of the security state agencies would actually like to destabilize Russia and
Yeah,
threaten Putin's rule, because how else are they really going to, quote, win the war in Ukraine from the Western perspective?
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know. Lukashenko is like a kind of an egotistical, like semi blowhard. Um, but it's possible that there were like kind of competing schools of thought within the intelligence agencies of the West, and he kind of caught
yeah.
wind of at least one of
Yeah,
them.
because this was fast. Like this entire insurrection was like a few days. So like the
Yeah,
idea that there would be like a full kind of united Western front and like even within one country of like how to the attitude to take. Yeah, I think that it would be very doubtful anything would develop that quickly.
yeah. If anything,
Um,
it just kind of highlights the general severity or
yeah.
import of that episode.